Martin, our CAO, and Wendy, Councillor Coomber delayed a bit, so they won't be here initially, but we'll get started without them. As well, we'll carry on with the meeting in a little less formal format that we normally use for our regular council meetings. We'll start off with the Economic Development Committee reports, and Councillor Peters.
Not much there right now, just moving forward into the strategic planning and public meetings will involve some of that, but nothing right now.
Anything further on economic development? That's a big one. Budget and Administrative Services, Councillor Peters, again.
I have a meeting tomorrow with our CFO and our CAO to go over the list of things that we've put over to the strategic planning meeting, so that we kind of have an idea of what direction we need to go. Christina is waiting for guidance from council as to what the most important issues moving forward will be, so that she can finish developing the budget. She's done an amazing amount of work already, but yeah, she has to have some guidelines. Mm-hmm. So we're going to kind of go through that, and I've made a list. I've gone through the minutes since last year and pulled out all of the things that were referred, and I have the list now, but I want to reorganize it before our meeting tomorrow. Okay. So that, and then Martin said that he as well has a list, so between the three of us we can kind of put things in order for everybody.
Lots of key points, I'm sure, that we have to
address. There's been a lot of things referred. It's going to be interesting.
Yes. Thank you. And the code of conduct?
I received an email from Wendy this afternoon at 4:00. Just a couple of things that she would like changed on page 1, number 1, that behavior is referenced twice, that be changed to conduct. It's just a more formal way. There's two instances of it in there. And for number 3, she asked to add the comments about councillor's performance shall only be made to the mayor through private correspondence or conversation. So that's a total addition of a paragraph.
Can you repeat it?
Okay. Comments about councillor's performance shall only be made to the mayor through private correspondence or conversation. And then number 11 on page 3, we deleted as it's number 11, the penalties, because it's dealt with in number 13, remedies. So it's redundant.
Sorry, what was the first change?
The first change is in number 1. The word behavior is twice. It's in the 3rd line, 2 separate times. That word be changed to conduct.
Is there anything further, Councillor Peters?
No.
No?
I have no.
Thank you.
So I would like to move that council direct staff to revise policy B9 to better follow the guidelines. Oh, that's not the right one. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's just
I would like to move that we move forward with adoption of the code of conduct, this code of conduct as amended.
So then moving it forward and opening it to meeting again?
Oh, okay, is that what we do? Okay, thank you.
Okay, policy bylaw review, myself and Councilor Peters. I can do that one if you wish.
Sure.
That policy B9 be council direct staff to revise policy B9 to better follow guidelines.
Second.
Any discussion?
No, we can only discuss here, we have to move it to
Just
the
move to
open
meeting.
agenda.
Oh.
So, my questions on policy B9, council expenses, what exactly are we changing?
Well, right now, everything pretty much seems reasonable. There is established that in the original B9 that the mileage should follow with the CRA guidelines, which I'm fine with, but the per diem doesn't really align with either CRA reasonable rates or the Ministry of Finance rates.
Okay, so the per diem is 120 per day, right?
Yes.
And 150 out in the greater Vancouver area. Our old policy B9 was September 6th of '05. The per diem was 120 a day and 150 a day, so that the changes there hasn't been any change there.
No, but the Ministry of Finance has other guidelines, and I'm not sure how those per diem rates have been established in the first place, because I find them a bit high.
Okay, so what would be the dollar value for
I have
change?
attached, well, that remains to be established. I have made a summary of the reasonable rates dictated by CRA and the Ministry of Finance. They are pretty much similar. So for the meal is to a total of $51 a day. It's just the difference between the breakfast amount, lunch amount, dinner amount.
Okay, so I guess my concern is really there hasn't been much of a change in regard to policy B9 council expenses from '05 to now 2019. But the policy that has changed considerably was policy B6, the employee and fire department expenses from September 6, 2005. The total day expenses were $50 a day and $65 a day, which has now jumped up to $86.80 a day and $99.90 a day. And now those rates were based back on the CRA meals and allowance rates. So I can see this
I would
policy
like to see
being
that.
changed.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure where those CRA rates were taken from.
Because this is
because-
policy number B6.
Well, let's
Travel
stick with
Canada.
policy B9 for now, and you
Mhm.
can bring that up later.
Yeah,
Okay,
So we're dealing with policy B9.
I would like to make a comment. I think that the per diem model needs to be changed, because I, for one, don't need to be paid other than expenses for the time I'm not there, because I'm not losing any wages. So I think the policy needs to be revised to reflect actual expenses and honorarium, which the honorarium being is if you are working and you miss work, that you be reimbursed, and that amount needs to be discussed, how that's going to be determined. But for those of us who don't work, or aren't losing wages, I gave back the majority of the money that I had was given for UBCM because I spent less than $100 because so many meals, or just over $100.
They were included.
Less than,
Yeah.
because so many meals were included. So I got $825 and I turned back in $760 because I didn't spend it. And I feel guilty taking money from the taxpayers for wages that I haven't lost and meals that I didn't pay for.
And this is another thing that we should take in consideration when there is a conference where the meals are included, they shouldn't be reimbursed.
Yeah.
Because it's double yam there, and I don't think it's reasonable.
And I know originally I was against submitting receipts, but I did it as a point of reference for this particular trip and turned back in receipts to Christina. And it wasn't an inconvenience at all.
Well,
And
I think
so-
if we want to be accountable and work towards becoming transparent and gaining the trust of the people, we should bring the receipts. And once we have the receipts, we are going to show that we are accountable for the money that we spend.
So I think the whole, not just the policy itself, but the whole layout of the policy needs to be changed as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
That there has to be four separate categories. One is accommodation, and that's usually paid in advance by the village. One is travel. One is meals, and the other is honorarium or replacement of lost wages, or partial replacement of lost wages.
Anyway, I have attached some links here and a bit of summary of the guidelines from Ministry of Finance of what they see reasonable for civil servants to be used.
That's this.
Yes.
Okay.
So we can just study it and then come up with the procedure and the policy that will work.
So then this should then go back to,
Mhm.
as a committee, to discuss what we think the separation of these
And
pieces
put
should be.
forward a proposal.
Yeah. I think so.
I just think if
Because
we're
I-
asking our taxpayers
Right.
to help out, that we need to also be fiscally responsible.
I think it'd be a fair assessment if you didn't mind as the chair of the budget committee to sit down with our CFO and come up with a policy to present to council.
Okay, we've had some discussions already.
Yeah.
Just in
That would be,
my bouncing my feelings and her bouncing her feelings about this. Okay.
anything
So-
further?
Well, this is just all discussion anyway.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, I guess the per diem, we don't have a breakdown of what the 120 is including. So,
No, that's why for me, per diem, when you consider meal and per diem allowance is you either bring the receipts and you are accountable for, or you get an allowance that kind of covers what the meal should be on a daily basis. Now, probably in industry or maybe some people abuse that amount and go to restaurants and go overboard. But I think the reasonable standards was put in place just to avoid those exceptions where people go and just spend the money for no reason at all. So that's why that $120 per day, I found it a bit too much, to be honest. I would like to see receipts to see that people are accountable for their expenditures.
right, so we're just assuming that the mileage,
That's paid separately.
no, that's paid separately, isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's
Okay.
separate.
So this is meals and honorarium.
Yeah, well, no, meals is going to be a meal and honorarium is going to be.
Yeah, no, but
It's
we,
lumped together right now,
yeah,
and
we
there's no
could just
definition.
assume that.
Yeah,
that
I would like to
those two-
see it different because an allowance is an allowance and it's taxable. An honorarium is taxable because it's an income, reflects a loss of wage.
Right.
Meal, it's not taxable if it's accountable.
Mhm.
So there are different aspects that we need to take into consideration when we decide what our rates are going to be.
Okay, so,
Just better transparency and
Mhm.
better.
oh yeah,
answer.
definitely,
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
that's what
that's
I
my
was
goal.
after,
So,
was, because we won't be, you know, like everybody else, like, we don't pay for any alcohol, drugs or alcohol,
I hope not.
and the receipt, the receipts,
Yeah.
we should be itemized menu,
Yeah.
like right from what you ordered.
Yeah.
Yep,
Not just
that's what I
a, not
turned
just
back
a
in.
debit
Yeah.
receipt or whatever.
That's what I turned back in.
How do you, how would you, I guess, I'd like to be a part of this, this meeting
Well,
for
I think
discussion.
the first part of it would be,
I think
To
the
me.
first part for everyone should
Mhm.
go through what the Ministry of
Mhm.
Finance proposes and then
Right,
come up with the ideas and.
come up, throw some ideas together.
Yeah, exactly, and then we'll start discussing those
Mm-hmm,
when people are more informed, because right now,
yeah,
you know,
just having
there's-
this
we
now.
just have an idea, but not much more.
So I guess is there, how did they come up with, the coverage for honorarium?
That part we again have to discuss,
Yeah,
we have to discuss.
You have to consider that this isn't the first time it's been discussed around the council.
Yeah, so
This
we are
has
just
come up
about.
many times in
We're
the
just-
past, and this
yeah.
has been the
Yeah.
best solution to a
Yeah.
particular problem for the council of the day.
Yeah,
Because you do have people that work, people that are not
Don't.
working,
exactly.
and then you start into this mishmash of who's gonna get what for what.
yeah,
Mhm.
And this was a clean and simple way of determining how to deal with that issue. Now, if we're gonna reopen this up, then it's gonna be a problem for another council, and they can amend the policy at that
Yeah.
point. But we have to understand that.
I think if we make it, it'll be very contingent on the wording
Yeah.
and that, aspect. For the honorarium part of it, the rest of it's pretty basic. I mean,
Yeah, you bring in the
accommodation,
receipt,
travel
we
and
get the money,
meals
yeah.
are pretty down to earth and basic
Yeah.
and generic, like it's easy to figure that one out. Deciding the best way to assign an honorarium will be the bit of a challenge, and that
Yeah.
will take some homework and research.
right.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that's all I've got for that policy.
So
Oh,
with
so
that
that's
in,
quite-
do we, I guess we can move it into the regular meeting just to have a motion
To
Yeah.
have it referred to.
to refer to, committee and CFO.
So, discussion on, policy B6. Where we went from $50 a total a day to $86, I believe it is. Yeah, $86.80 a day. I would like to see that policy
Mhm.
B6
Reviews.
follow the same review.
Okay, we'll do some research and we'll,
I just wanna make it clear, when you say we, it wasn't us, it was a previous council that
No,
made
we
that.
actually
No.
revised B6.
Yeah.
When,
It's on the front of that one. August, oh no, it was previous council.
No, it was
August
August
nine-
19,
Oh, this year,
2019.
yeah. Dang. Yeah, we revised it, but
Mm-hmm.
it, Christina's come up with some more information since we did that revision, so.
I think the revision was done only for the mileage. I don't think we revised the meals at that time.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was.
It was, the meals were revised.
Yeah.
Mileage
Um,
was updated, but I believe meals were as
Mileage.
well, yeah. I believe so.
Okay.
And also on that one, now that we're kind of discussing that, is because I'd asked at that time, what were all the changes? But another change that was on there was that the expenses related to training and conferences, application form had to be completed rather than the travel authorization form. And in the old policy, Cache Creek Council must approve all training unless it is detailed in the most current adopted budget. Now that was removed in the August 2019 policy. And now it states that the chief administrative officer, or in their absence, the chief financial officer has the authority to approve applications for training if funding is available in the current approved budget. I have an issue with that because in our old system it was approved, all training had to be approved by Cache Creek Council unless it was detailed in the current adopted budget. So then the council has basically handed off their authority to the CAO on this training for funding. Also, the other part of that is if we didn't agree with the budget. Some members of council didn't agree with the budget.
Well, I think the training
So-
should be included in the budget because
Oh,
it's a big
definitely,
item.
but
And
the
council
amounts,
obviously
the
should-
amounts were the concern in the budget. Because we don't have the money, and that's why we're trying to trim.
Mhm. There are things that we can trim and there are things that we cannot trim. And I'm going to be quite honest, when it comes to training, it's a bit of delicate. For example, I have been hired in this position as coming in with all the credentials, and I expect that my professional development is going to be covered
Right.
in order to maintain my credentials. CFO training is not a cheap item, I have to admit, but it has to be covered by the village.
Right.
So where do we draw the line? Is that training benefit the village? Their training doesn't benefit the village?
Right.
We have to start discerning between what benefits the village and what doesn't.
Right,
And maybe that's a starting point.
and I think that should be a decision of council, as it was before.
The thing is, one of the fundamental principles of governing at the local level for sure is that council has one employee, the CAO. The CAO directs the rest of the staff, and that includes training. The way the policy is now worded just reflects that philosophy. I'm the one that approves training. I'm the one that has the knowledge of what they need. I have knowledge of the budget. Council gives me a budget to work within, and I work within it. If something special comes up and it doesn't fit in the budget, then I would definitely bring it to council.
Right, but like I said earlier, the Cache Creek Council must approve all training unless it is detailed in the most current adopted budget. Now, that is one of the things that was changed, but wasn't brought to our attention when we revised.
I believe it was brought to
Yeah, I
council's
believe it was all
attention.
discussed.
It was discussed, and if we go back, we made a motion we wanted administration to have that authority. We have enough on our plate as councillors to decide on what direction we're gonna take our municipality without having to decide on who gets
Every
training.
single thing.
I have no idea who needs training.
No, and
That's why we set up the budget. We approve the budget, and administration, CFO, and CAO administer.
Within that budget.
So if you have an issue with that, bring it up at the regular meeting.
Okay,
We
I'll
can,
bring it up
we
then.
can discuss it, and we can go from there.
Mhm,
Well, this is just a discussion
mhm.
time frame right now. So we're
Well,
not
so-
making any decisions.
We
and
will
that's
be shortly,
where-
because you're
that's-
saying that you don't feel comfortable with it, so I'm anticipating that you're gonna come up with a motion to have it reverted back to the old policy, or the old, way we did it.
Well,
I mean, that's where you're heading, so let's be honest, that's where you're going with that. So, we're saying, bring it up at the regular meeting, we'll bring it up, we'll have a discussion, and we'll vote on it.
Well, I'm not going to, I don't have any plans of that. I wanted, this is a committee of the whole for us to have open discussion.
And I think we
And
already said
so
we were
this is
gonna
where-
review B6 as well. That was, I
Oh, did
already
we?
made the note, yeah,
Okay.
I wrote that down 15 minutes ago.
Okay,
That we
well,
would
that's,
review both.
we're not in a rush.
Yeah.
We can't be in a rush. We're making our decisions. That's where we have the problems. Okay, so that's all I've got for that. And other than, so it's the process, Martin, that is being changed?
That was changed.
Yes.
Yeah, or that was changed,
Yes.
because normally, then we knew where we were spending the money.
Well, obviously, if
It's-
it's a
it's right,
detailed
you know.
item, then it's part of the budget and the council is aware of being a line of the budget. When I think that we have to discuss this, when is additional to what the budget
Right.
supports, when we have to make a decision. For example, someone is on short-term disability, we don't have the ticket for the water plant, we need someone be trained, send him to the training.
Right.
So that's why, that's an extra item from the budget,
Okay.
where we have to make that decision as an administrative staff.
Well, because it's just, I guess, is that has the authority to approve applications for training if funding is available in the current approved budget.
Correct.
Because it's not really,
I think part of the idea too is that council doesn't have to, we know our wastewater guys have to have upgrading, we know our sewer guys have to have training, we know that Lindsay had to have payroll training, those things. It's a waste of our time to have those brought up at a council meeting when we know they need to be done and the CFO and the CAO have had the discussion and know it needs to be done, that they be given that authority because it's within our budget already, that they
Right.
don't have to bring every single training item
No.
to council. That's why the wording is the way it is.
and that this is all handled, training and all of that is handled,
By the CAO, that's part of his job.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, but we don't know who's getting training and what.
It could be
and
part
all
of the.
Right,
I
so
can-
maybe we can
I
get
can
a
start-
You can ask
report,
at
a
any
report,
time.
a status report.
Yeah,
As
I
part
could
of
add
the
to the
status
status report. Not that I've been all that effective at getting my status reports to council meetings, but lots has been interfering with that. In any case, yes, I could definitely add it to the status
Okay.
reports.
Perfect. I'd like to see that. Here. I don't know if you have to add that into that.
No.
Or,
No, just,
No?
we don't need to get formal about that.
okay, that's all. Thank you.
Public Works and Community Facilities, myself and Councillor DeVoe.
Nothing that I have.
Village Services and Liaison.
I actually have one
Do you?
on the grant for the renovations to the community hall.
Mm-hmm.
Are we moving forward with that?
Yeah, we started collecting quotes and we have to start working
Yeah.
for the community hall now. Cause I think the deadline is November 30th, so we
Mhm.
have to do everything by then.
Thank you.
Any further? Villages Services and Liaison. Councillor DeVoe and Councillor Coomber. How you doing, Wendy?
Wonderful.
glancing at that and thinking it's a dog.
Oh,
Sorry.
Any further? Protective Services, myself and Counselor Cooper. Any?
oh, sorry, could we go back? Back one, Public Works. This was sitting on everyone's
Yep.
table.
Already signed it,
You've already signed it.
yeah. Went through, I signed it.
This is something that True Engineering put in for us for putting in a new well, doing some exploration possibly. I'm looking through this one, it just came in this afternoon, so I haven't had a chance to look at it in real detail. But you'll see the terms and conditions page says, page 1 of 84, there's only 3 pages here, so I will copy everyone or forward the email to everyone when the rest of it comes in.
Oh,
The contact person is out of the office until the 21st.
He's doing this, the same location as well, 6 and 7.
That's right, yeah.
All right. Intergovernmental relations.
Actually, back on
Sorry.
protective services. The fire department did attend Honor House grand opening, and I'd just like to thank them for taking their truck up there. It was a,
even though they didn't recognize them, they only recognized
okay.
Ashcroft.
they were recognized with the Ashcraft, so it was good. And it was a great turnout.
It was a really good turnout.
Any further?
My back didn't much like it, but
You were back, didn't
standing for that long,
Yeah.
oh yeah, my back just
Why's
gave
that?
right out on me.
I was standing.
Intergovernmental relations, myself. No meeting, no report. So we have an option. We can flow
Winter?
right into the in-camera meeting if you wanted, I guess,
Oh,
I
we can
or
You
no.
mean regular?
No,
Regular.
No, can you
No.
go into the in-camera?
Because we can't start the regular till 7,
Until 7.
Right.
so if we do the
Can
camera
we do a
now-
break and have dinner? I didn't have a
That's
dinner break, I just
at the
came
pleasure of
right
council.
from
Yes, we
here.
could do
Okay.
in camera now. I don't
Carry on.
see any,
We've done it before.
yeah, I'm just racking my brains. I can't see any reason why not.
Okay, do you mind if we do our in-camera session now between now and 7? Call the October 15th council meeting 2019 to order. No delegations, so we'll carry on to the minutes. Council consider adopting the minutes of the regular council meeting of September 16th.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
Just a note on the page 4. Item 10, is just that Councillor Pittman requested a copy of the formal complaint and information.
Page 4?
It starts on page 3.
Oh, okay.
In the last paragraph.
Item 10 on page 4.
Yes. I requested a copy of the.
Okay, you want that included in the minutes?
Yes,
Just
please.
saying, sorry, I was
Yeah.
reading for it. I thought there was something in
Nope,
there.
on the bottom.
Okay. I do recall that, yes.
Any further? No business arising from delegations, because there's no delegation.
Excuse me, I think Councilor
So
Pittman
we
wanted
need
to
to amend
amend the
that.
minutes.
Adopt as amended.
Second.
Any discussion? favor? Carried. Business arising from the minutes, or is there anything further?
Yes. Coast Claims Insurance Services Fire Hall Roof. The budget, be amended to allocate the $40,000 for the repair of the fire hall roof, which was not in our budget in the first place, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so when I reviewed the Coast Claims documentation here, the Arcona Roofing and Sheet Metal, they based their decisions on this cost based only on Arcona Roofing. And I wanted to know because sometime in May of 2019, we were aware that the fire hall roof had a leak and needed repairs. And then June 1st, it says something. June 1st, there was interior damage. Then June 28th, why only Arcona Roofing inspection did the inspection? Why wasn't that as an open for other contractors to do a site inspection and possibly put the bid package together?
Okay, first of all, the inspection was done by an appraiser hired by the Municipal Insurance Association. It was not done by Arcona Roofing.
Okay, so I would assume then that Coast Claims would have they wouldn't just go by one bid. Was there an
Coast Claims
advertisement?
was the assessor hired by MIA.
Okay,
They just came to take a look at the roof. We were concerned that maybe there had been some settling happening, and that was what caused the roof to leak.
right,
His assessment was that no, that was not the cause, it was simply the age of the roof. And that we needed to repair it and know that the insurance would not cover it.
okay,
That process took a while. Yes, it may have been reported in May that it was leaking, but by the time we contacted MIA, they got the assessor out there, the assessor did his inspection, the assessor did his report. The report had to be submitted to MIA and then it had to come back to us. After all that was done, that's why why it took that long.
right,
MIA confirmed the assessor's advice that MIA would probably not pay for this. As soon as that information came to my desk, I went to quotes. I went to 3 different companies, one responded.
okay, so I just missed that. Can you repeat that last section?
I approached 3 different companies.
No, after, when you realized that,
MIA was not going to cover it.
okay, so is this on September 9?
I don't recall the date.
The September 9 is what the Coast Claims Insurance documentation says here. This letter. But further to our meeting of August 27, we confirmed that any costs in relation to the incident of May 24, 17 are statute barred. So that would be August 27. End of
If-
August is when you would have gone out for bids? The tender would have
The
gone
August
through?
27th date would have been the date, I believe, and just from the tone of that letter, that would be the date that he actually came out and inspected the fire hall.
Mm,
I don't remember the dates. All I remember is the
Okay,
sequence.
okay, so on September 9 then, for sure, because it says further to our meeting of August 27, we confirm any cost in relation to the incident isn't gonna be covered.
Right.
So
As soon as I
August
got-
27 and September 9. So September 9, between August 27 and September 9, or after September 9, would this have gone out for tender?
Yes, I didn't do a
Okay.
formal tender, I just, it's a standard type of job, there was nothing special about it. I phoned 3 roofing companies and asked them to submit a bid. Just asked them to let us know when they wanted to come out so that we'd have someone meet them at the fire hall to do their own inspection and site assessment.
Okay, so this is a $40,000 project,
Yes,
which we don't have in our budget,
we do now,
So-
council gave approval.
but we still have to figure out where the $40,000 is coming from. But this should have gone through the tender process. It should have had been open for contractors to come do their site inspection and give us a detailed quote, but they also should have been able to tell us whether we want to put that same type of roofing material on the building or there's a new upgraded process. So that's why I would have liked to see this go out to open tender. Because then we're
I
doing
don't
something.
think
I,
we do
I
have the
believe
time.
part of the discussion was that time was of the essence, and that's why we chose not to go to an actual tender process, because we wanted to get the roof repaired before the snow flew.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was part of the discussion that we had in council.
Otherwise,
don't
That's
recall.
why we asked for the 40,000 now, rather than for next year.
But we didn't make a resolution to that.
There was a motion.
There was a motion that the budget be amended to allocate $40,000 for the repair of the fire hall roof.
Yes.
Council did not see any of the bids, council did not make any of the,
Yeah, you did
Decision.
say that, we had one.
only one.
That's the only
But
one.
But
that
that's the
answered.
one, the
That's
only one.
the-
that
But
did
that's
that.
where I'm saying the process failed.
No,
And- and that-
didn't.
No, it didn't.
No,
That
it
it
didn't.
should have gone out to tender.
We sent it to 3 contractors,
I
only one
phoned
responded.
3 different contractors out of Kamloops directly and asked them to submit a bid. To please call us if they were interested in doing a site assessment. To go to a formal tender, that means you have to develop a tender document. You have to have it checked by a lawyer, you have to post it on BC Bid. And all of that would have meant that we would not be doing the project before the snow flies.
I'm just trying to find that policy here. Because it's right in our policy that states that it has to go out to, it goes to BC Bid on our choice. It goes to the newspapers, it goes out so that people are aware of it. Our local contractors could have an opportunity to see it and bid on it.
There are no local contractors that do this kind of work. Most local is Kamloops.
I believe you're wrong in that.
I
There's at
I
least
stand to be corrected, but
two
I
or
don't know of
three.
anybody, and I asked at least 3 other people if they knew of any locals that did
That's
hot
why,
tar
that's
roofing.
why it's
and nobody
important
knows.
for it to go out into the,
Normally
newspaper and
we would
advertising.
have done that.
but I don't see where this has become an emergency situation when we knew that there was a problem back in early May. We knew that the roof had to be repaired.
But we didn't know who was gonna assume the liability for that.
Exactly.
Right,
So,
so
if
we,
you understand, let me
process.
talk. That time, there was an issue with the roof. We weren't sure whether it was structural or whether it was the roof membrane itself. We weren't sure whether we were gonna get it covered by insurance or we were gonna pay for it ourselves.
right,
So we're at the point today, because we've gone through that process. The administrator has gone for 3 quotes. Sure, maybe we should have put it out for BC bid.
should have.
However, time is of the essence. We're not gonna get a roof put on in October, November, December. Or we certainly don't want that.
this, there,
You got a question, Brian? You can save it to the end.
the, what I'm saying is, the roof needed to be repaired. So we do our due diligence, whether insurance is paying for it or we have to pay for it. What's the cost? Where are we gonna get the people from? We do that instead of waiting till the last minute, and now we've only got one person, and we're saying, okay, we're gonna give this person 40,000. How about, it should have gone out to the public, it
Yes.
should have,
We
So
did,
we
we did the
could-
3 quotes. We did put it out there.
We couldn't make a decision until we knew whether insurance covered it, because if insurance covered it, they would be acquiring the quotes. So we couldn't do anything until we got a response from the insurance company,
By then, we had enough left.
and by then we had no time left.
so our policy itself, policy B5 purchasing, states in there
Okay, let's
that the
move on.
formal
I think
tender
you've made your
process
point.
will include the
You've made
following
your
as a
point. Is there
minimum
any other
requirement.
discussion on the subject?
Advertising, Ashcroft Cache Creek Journal, Kamloops Daily News, and if it is felt
Let's move
appropriate,
on.
by the clerk administrator on the BC Bid website.
Any other business arising from the minutes?
Yes. So, has this, where's the council's resolution on giving the direction to the CAO to, contact the successful bidder? Where's our decision? Where's our decision? Where's our
Our decision is
resolution?
allocating the budget, it's the CAO's decision on.
Not for $40,000, it isn't.
Any other discussion on the minutes? Have you got anything else that pertaining to something different?
Yes, I do.
Okay, let's hear it.
The financial items from CFO concerning regards to the error in the budgeting program resulting in the actual income from the tax increase being 1% instead of 10%. And that there are concerns regarding the financial status of the village. And I can't stress it enough that there is no money tree out back. We have to make responsible decisions. We're here for the community.
Which,
And it's 3.
Business.
9A.
oh, 9A, okay.
The next one. Page 4, 12A, supercharger agreement with Tesla. I've looked and searched for the council resolution on directing the CAO or whoever to contact Tesla to install the supercharger station. And number 2, giving direction to enter into financial negotiations for the lease or contract.
Those were both released
And-
from the public, or from the closed meetings, they were voted on at the closed meetings,
Yes,
and they
but
are on record.
I'm looking for the council resolution that gave direction to contact Tesla. And the council resolution to enter into financial negotiations for the lease and contract and the location site. I couldn't find those anywhere. If somebody wants to show me where those council resolutions are.
I don't believe they needed resolutions.
They don't need resolutions.
So you can just contact anybody.
I did not contact Tesla, Tesla contacted us.
That has been discussed in closed meetings over the last, I believe, 3 meetings.
Well, this is my question when I'm reading through here and to who the
If you look
financial
back through your
negotiations.
closed
No,
meeting
but for the
minutes.
financial negotiations for the leasing contract.
We did discuss that.
It was discussed in the closed meeting.
It was a closed meeting, we came up with a figure to shoot
But
for.
there was-
And if I
there
remember correctly,
wasn't-
you voted in favor of our resolution for that time. And I'm not sure if that's been forwarded to or taken out of our closed meeting yet, but we all did. We discussed the monthly fee, we discussed, and everybody voted in favor of.
No, we didn't. We voted as opposed to it.
Oh, you do remember.
I did. I voted as opposed to it.
Yeah.
Because where was the council resolution directing the CAO to enter into contract negotiations? That is council's job.
Can we move on to the?
If you go back
Well,
and
I
review
just-
your
I
closed
will
meeting
leave it.
minutes, I
That's
think
what
your
I'm
answers
saying.
will be your
Yeah,
questions
we
will be
understand what
answered.
you're saying.
Okay, so
Some-
I just
somewhat.
I want
mean,
to direct
I
that.
just need to
It's
say
pretty
that
confusing, but it's.
I brought everything to council. That was council's input. I took that back to Tesla. I'm not sure what else you
I know,
expect.
how did the contact to Tesla? I guess it's public now, so you stated that you contacted Tesla and you entered into financial negotiations
No,
with Tesla.
They
That's not
contacted
what he's
us.
saying.
They contacted
So
us.
that's not what was discussed in that.
Is there any other
So
items
that's
you
where I
wanna bring
have a
up?
question.
Tesla
concern.
contacted Village.
Tesla contacted the village.
And that, but you entered into the financial negotiations for the lease contract.
Following
Let-
advice
Point of
from
order.
council, yes.
Martin,
Point of order.
okay, carry on. Anything else?
That's it for the minutes.
Thank you. Committee reports, economic development, Councilor Peters, anything?
No report.
Budget and administrative services, Councilor Peters.
As addressed in the committee of the whole meeting, I will be meeting with CAO Dawson and CFO Martini tomorrow to go over all of the items that we've referred to strategic meeting within our minutes and what we discussed during the budget meetings with Brian to put together a list of things that need to be brought to council at the strategic planning meetings so that we can give CFO Martini direction on developing the next budget.
Anything else?
Just that I move we authorize a budget bylaw amendment to increase the total to $7,500 for this budget period only to allow for the expense and approve the purchasing of ad space in the Gold Country Visitor Guide order and trail maps.
Second.
Discussion?
We're already over our advertising budget for 2019. The budget was set for $3,500. We're at $3,974 now. So we're over $474 before we even do this.
That's why we're looking. for-
Where's
This-
this additional money gonna come from? $3,525.76.
I believe the benefit to the community will outweigh the expense. The Gold Country these publications go worldwide, not just within our area. And it will bring people into our area. I believe that it's money well spent.
How much money has been spent for Gold Country so far to date?
I don't have a figure.
So I think we have
I have to
already
look into.
done quite a bit with that. And does
Publication
Gold
is every 2
Country,
years.
and does Gold Country owe us money? Do they not owe us some money from some kind of seminar thing?
It was the
To-
contractors who put on the training seminar that did not give us the refund.
Right,
Gold
so,
Country was only acting as the coordinator.
so we can't use but part of that.
I don't think so, no.
Okay,
I mean, I could always approach them and ask if we could get maybe a better price because of that, but, I mean, we're talking about apples and oranges here, so
I know, but
I
we're
could
still.
do it out if council directed me to, but I'd feel very uncomfortable doing it.
Okay, so it's just a reminder that our accountants advise getting more bang for our bucks and to decrease our controllable expenses, and that we cannot legally run the municipality into a deficit position. I don't see where we're gonna get the 3,500 and change for this. This is a big expense. At some point in time, we have to say no. We have to control our expenses. We just can't keep,
Well, I personally
there's
believe
no
that,
money tree out back.
I personally believe the benefit of this one is, worth the extension, and again, I say for this year only, because we need to bring that up as a line, budget line, if we're going, this is a twice, every 2 year, a bi-yearly publication, and again, it's distributed worldwide, it brings people from all over the world into our area.
We've been through 2 really bad tourism years, and this year we're finally starting to climb out of it thanks to the efforts of TOTA, Triple CTA, Gold Country, and in order to keep that momentum going, you have to keep your face out there. There are a lot of people saying, well, a lot of guide companies going, you know, well, what's the next year gonna be like? Are you gonna have mudslides? Are you gonna have fires? You have to keep reminding them that we have the best place on earth to visit. And yeah, I think that, you know, this is the time when we really wanna push it before they start sliding back into, well, I don't know. No, this is a great opportunity for us.
So what exactly are we,
Councillor Defoe.
I also like to say that keeping our face out there is the only way to dig us out of that hole, and I think this is definitely value
Yeah.
for our community.
Mm-hmm.
at the,
CA Dawson.
No, Councillor Coomer said what I was gonna say.
Is there any further discussion?
so what exactly are the plans for expense on this? There's so many different ways it can be. Quarter page ad,
Oh.
$550.
Now that I've got a budget, I can work that out with Gold Country, but my intent was to have one of the large ads on the perma paper map, and another Ashcroft's buying a full page ad. I think we should do the same inside the magazine itself.
Well, if we're gonna do some advertising, you say you want to, maybe we should be looking at a cheaper cost, like a quarter page ad. The 1/9 of a page, or it's $2.75,
The smaller your ad, the less noticeable it is.
but you're still getting it out there.
Call the question. Any further discussion on the matter, on this particular subject? All in favor? Carried.
Opposed, and please record that. We don't have the funding, we don't have the monies for that. It's,
I'd like to move that we
Smaller.
approve the proposed 2020 council meeting schedule.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
No, I would like to add something, if
Certainly.
I may.
Oh, yeah, there is one item I wanted to add too, sorry.
It's just that on the days when the meeting starts at 7 o'clock and I finish here at 4:30, going back and forth is not worthwhile for me. I was wondering if we could start it at 6 o'clock, those meetings.
It used to be that we separated the two meetings, 4:30, 7 o'clock, to coordinate with Ashcroft so that it would make it easier for the reporter from the paper to get to both council meetings. It also makes it easier when there is one group such as MIABC or TNRD, they can get to both council meetings. For things like MIA or whoever wants to come as a delegation, moving it to 6 o'clock would not be an issue. We don't have coverage of every single council meeting from the paper either, so if council think that's a reasonable thing to do, I don't think the impact would be all that great.
why don't you change them all to 6?
Rather than a 4:30 to 6, just make them all 6.
Mm-hmm.
Any further discussion?
Well, what about those meetings where there is a committee of the whole?
That's something I wanted to discuss.
You know,
Rather than have a committee of the whole, then a council meeting, then possibly a closed meeting, on the days when we want to have a committee of the whole, why not just a committee of the whole, and then go in camera if we need to go in camera? Just a
It's a
a
separate
thought,
date.
just a discussion topic, see what council thinks. Yeah, just a standalone
Mhm.
committee of the whole,
So not with a meeting per se, except
exactly, not with a
a
regular.
completely different date kind of a thing.
Right.
Yeah, well, following this schedule, but
Okay.
where it says committee of the whole, we would not have a regular meeting that day. That's what I'm suggesting.
But how does that affect daily business if there's items that need to be discussed
Yeah.
openly with public?
You just refer them to the next open
To the
meeting.
next open meeting, unless it's an urgent
Times.
matter, and then you can call a special council meeting on that same day if you need to. And just as an aside here, I guess, between the last council meeting and this one was 4 weeks. Not a lot of stuff is built up, so I don't see this as being a big impact.
There was some discussion of getting rid of the committee of the whole meetings altogether, which would probably be the way I would like to lean to if we were gonna be doing anything.
Yeah, we did not have them when I was here before.
Well, they're a good opportunity to have open discussion.
They are. That's a council thing.
I think we have
I
pretty
can
open
see-
discussion in our
Yeah,
regular
I
meetings.
I was gonna say something like that,
So-
yes.
yeah.
I think our regular meetings are already fairly open. The committee of whole meetings are intended to be something a little more informal. Also, if you have, say, an extra long delegation, we had one from True a few months back, where on a regular meeting, you've got a lot of topics to deal with. On a committee of the whole, generally, you stick to 2 or 3 different topics. So pros and cons either way.
So we need a motion, I guess, to address.
So there's a motion on the floor, so we need to either vote on it and
Yeah,
defeat
the
it.
motion on the floor is to
Accept it
accept it as
presented.
is.
So if we want to defeat
Or
it.
could it be
Defeated.
amended?
Oh,
or
yeah.
we could-
You could
we could
amend it.
amend it.
Does our procedural bylaw stipulate times?
Actually, I just thought of that, and yes, it does, so we'll have to, the resolution would have to be to amend the procedure bylaw. If there are going to be changes.
Move to table it?
Yeah, I would say let's table it till the
Table
next
it,
meeting.
think about it, bring it
and
back?
do- Yeah,
Okay,
it's a pretty big change.
it is.
We need to vote on a table motion, Warren.
Yes, you do.
All in
There's no
favor?
discussion of a tabling motion. So, sorry,
Carried.
that was Councillor
And then-
Peters and,
And it,
oh, it was Councillor
motion,
Pittman?
Peters, second.
Okay.
On to policy and bylaw review. Myself and Councilor Peters, permissive tax exemptions. Let council approve the applications for permissive tax exemptions.
Second.
Discussion?
The two first ones, the South Caribou Sportsman Association, I don't see a society number and financial statement for their application.
In the past, no applications were submitted. They only sent out a letter requesting that permissive tax exemption. And so these 2 letters are pretty much from almost the beginning of the year, January and
Mhm.
March. And later on, I looked around to other municipalities to see what the procedure is, and I came up with that application form. And literally I came up with that 2 or 3 weeks ago, and not many people had enough time to fill in the requirements. So I think that because it's a transitional year until we settle down and give them more time, and we have as well more time to assess those exemptions, I think we should go as is, just for this time only. As well, that in the past, those exemptions were awarded for 10 years. Now, I would like to review them every year, just in case there is a change in business and we have to change our mind.
Right. The quality project, again, certificate of incorporation, good standing in the society.
I believe that's been forwarded to us.
Was
That's
it,
when we
that,
requested it.
no,
I don't know, I didn't
we
see
don't
it.
have,
Are
So
they
I-
a charitable organization?
No, not charitable, but they're not-for-profit.
Oh, non-for-profit, okay,
Right.
so maybe if I received a non-for-profit,
They're society.
society, yeah,
Or a society member.
yeah.
Access to online or not.
so I did that, are they a society, non-profit, not
Yeah.
for-profit society?
I believe they're.
There,
Yes.
and I will request their copy of
Yeah.
the certificate.
Yeah, what they're trying to get at this point is a charitable donation status. That can take a couple of years.
But they are a society.
Yeah.
And I was pretty sure we got a copy of that certificate in the past.
Well, it's probably somewhere there, but
Because I know that the last time, back in March, there wasn't,
That was
They
for
weren't-
charitable status, I believe.
but they weren't a society. They didn't qualify for that, they were going to
No, I thought they did
redo something in
qualify.
September. This group has been operating for a number of years, so completing the form really shouldn't have been a big issue.
there wasn't
The-
form
the-
until about 2 weeks ago.
Okay, but they were aware that we needed financial statements
I did
Only
request
A
that.
couple of weeks ago, yeah.
back in March when they came the first time.
2 weeks ago.
I
No,
sent
back
it-
in March 26, 2019, I said that I'd asked for financial statements.
Do you
When
remember
they-
what I told you in March?
I looked it up. So this
That's
is,
that's
this
okay.
is, this
Maybe
is the
they,
thing.
They don't have the minutes
No.
that you have to look back through.
But also, the permissive tax exemptions are for churches. So I'm trying to figure out where does this fit under our permissive exemptions?
Ash Creek
Can you
TV
show me?
Society is not a church.
The
South
Division
Caribou
7?
Sportsman is not a church. The golf course, when we used to fund it, was not a church.
It's not restricted to churches.
It's not profits as well.
Non-for-profit, charitable, any
they
organization that
own-
does good for the society. There are
Okay,
many
so they don't have
conditions.
to own the land and building because that land and building is owned privately.
When
It's-
the
it's
golf
rented
course-
or
When the
leased
golf
to.
course used to get permissive tax, they never owned, the society that ran the golf course never owned the property.
And who owns the property where the Ash Creek TV Society is?
I think
Cash
it's a-
Creek.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah, but
But
that's
it's a
under
s-
partnership
But it's a
over.
society asking for the tax
Is there any further
exemption.
discussion on the recommendation? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried.
I'm opposed. I don't agree with that.
Public Works and Community
Your Worship.
Facilities? I'm sorry, Counselor Defoe.
From the committee of the whole meeting, I'd like to move that we move the recommendation to direct staff of policy B9 and B6 to be reviewed.
Second.
Any discussion? If we beat that one down, pretty good. And they'll provide us with a recommendation. Thank you. All in favor? Carried.
Thanks, Lisa. That was from the committee of the whole. To review policies B6 and B9.
Public Works and Community Facilities, myself and Counselor Defoe.
I would move that council approve a grant and aid for free use of the community hall by the Cache Creek Fire Department on December 14, 2019.
Second.
Discussion?
Is this just for local responders?
So it's Ashcroft and Cache
Christmas
Creek.
party?
Ashcroft, Cache Creek, EMTs,
Yeah.
fire department,
ESS.
ESS, police.
All in
Well,
favor?
they used to do a fireman's ball for the whole community to
That
raise
was
funds.
years ago.
So this is something like maybe they could kind of look at so that they can start helping with some of the expenses of the,
This is
Fire
an
stuff.
appreciation of
Yeah.
our services for our communities.
yeah. But
You can ask them,
yeah, I will,
or make it a motion.
We have a motion on the floor.
okay.
All in favor? Carried. Village Services and Liaison. Counselor Defoe, Counselor Comer, public meeting.
When is everyone available? CFO, do you have a recommendation?
Date-wise?
I think don't we have to kind of have a strategic planning meeting first so that we have something to actually present to the public?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we need time to advertise and
We
get
did,
it out there.
advise the public that we would try our best to have this meeting before the end of October.
Yeah,
So we should
But we
probably
have-
have our strategic planning meeting maybe next week and the public session the week after.
yeah. Because it's got my calendar. Just a moment.
21st and 25th.
So we have a council meeting on the 28th.
8, yeah.
Halloween, of course, is on the 31st.
What's on, oh, okay.
Halloween, I'm thinking probably Wednesday the 30th for the public presentation.
But does that give, well, we have to meet next week then for the strategic planning meeting.
Yeah.
Let's set that date first.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa, what's your schedule like?
I'm in clinical till 4 every day next week, except for Friday, but I have an appointment for my daughter.
And Thursday, I've got an appointment in Kamloops around 5. So Thursday's probably
I
out.
would like to suggest it, but possibly a weekend meeting then, Saturday, Sunday afternoon kind of thing.
Works for me.
And we can decide the date for the public meeting at that time.
Fair enough.
Okay. 26th, the Saturday the 26th?
Doesn't give a whole lot of notice.
No, for
No,
us.
it's just for
That's
us.
for us.
For us.
No, for the public meeting.
Oh,
If it has to
right.
encroach
Oh,
into
gotcha.
November, I would sooner encroach
Oh.
into November
This weekend?
and make sure that we have everything covered in
So it's okay.
our meeting.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we wanna make sure that what we present is thorough and that we're all comfortable with it, presenting it. So the 19th or the 26th?
26.
26th would give Christina and I
Yeah.
enough time to get something properly put together.
So 10 a.m.? Or what are we looking
If
for
you
a
want to go
time?
for that long, or I was thinking just after lunch, but I think the last time we did this, it was a full
I think we
day.
should- Yeah,
So-
I think we should plan on a full day.
Okay.
My list is it's 3 pages of things that we table to strategic planning or that involve budget discussion that I pulled out of the minutes, so.
So 10?
I was thinking more like 5 a.m.
5 a.m.? Sure.
Good luck. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get up at that
10
time all the
a.m.
time, why not?
Yeah. I don't, but, well, sometimes I'm awake at that time.
We need a motion.
We
You're
have-
calling a special meeting council, so yes.
I move we have a special meeting of council to do strategic planning on October 26th, council,
If you could amend that slightly to a special closed meeting.
special closed meeting, sorry. October 26th, 10 10 a.m. in council chambers.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried.
You're next.
Am I? Oh. There it is. We had a meeting of the online community channel, which is now called the Hub Online Network, which Gareth is part of. They've established a Facebook presence and a YouTube channel, and the contest consists of community events, what's happening. They're always looking for input and content, so if anybody ever has any ideas, just call down. Jessica Clements has replaced Jan Schmidt as executive director. He resigned due to the time commitment involved. His family didn't realize how much time it was going to take. The strategic goals and timelines were updated. The website design is in progress. A feel for what was needed had to be determined before establishing. They have two, Jessica is the executive director, and then Gareth and his partner are the two that get out in the community and do the filming, and they're taking on 2 students from Desert Sands Community School that will be joining the team as unpaid apprentices, and they'll assist with editing and possibly developing content. Connections and content have been made and or filmed with the Bonaparte Band, as well as community members of Cache Creek and Ashcroft. Events filmed including Hat Creek Ranch, Tudor's Music Festival, Canada Day in Ashcroft, hospital staffing issues, Save the Pool, Thunder in the Valley Racing, Desert Days Festival, with many more planned. Marketing is in the planning stages. Although it's called the Hub Online Network, the focus is on the whole area, and input is always appreciated. Financially, at the present time, they are self-sustaining due to the funding they've received, and it will go for a full year. Next steps include how to become self-sufficient when that funding is depleting. Getting the website up and running will be a key component of that.
Thank you.
Just an update.
Thank you for that report. Anything further?
Just a question, I guess, to Gareth. Are the Ashcroft meetings being filmed
Yes.
as well?
There hasn't been a meeting since, there was one meeting that we haven't filmed because they had a meeting about us specifically.
No, so
We filmed one, then they talked about us, and then they haven't had a meeting since then.
okay, thank you.
So we'll be filming them moving forward.
Okay, thank you. That was a question that came up earlier, so.
Thank you. Protective Services, myself and Councillor Coomber.
I move that we approve a donation to the Cache Creek Fire Department to use towards Halloween fireworks, as we do every year.
Second.
Discussion.
And that donation is generally $1,000.
I see for number 2, but I'll double check that.
Okay.
They're asking for, the cost has been between 3 and 4. They're not asking for a specific amount.
I think they get some
They
money
got
from
it.
the Recreation Commission as well.
Yeah, so I guess the motion could be adjusted slightly to say
A dollar
for
amount.
for the same amount as we have in the past, or as we did in 2018.
Must have moved that.
So the dollar amount is how much?
We just discussed that.
$1,000 is what you want to donate?
No, we said we would donate it the same amount as we did last year. We don't know what that amount is.
Okay, because that's.
I believe
Because that would-
I believe
$1,000.
Okay, it will be in the budget. I wouldn't have changed that. It would be the same as what we did last year. So the money will be in the budget.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. And maybe Councillor Defoe, just give us an update for the benefit of the people in that weren't here during our committee as a whole on the Honor Ranch, if you don't mind. Would you do that, please? Just a brief.
Well, there was a great attendance at the Honor Ranch. Standing room only for probably 50 people in standing. It was a lovely event. It was with some great speakers. There was a lot of heart and a lot of very proud people for this ranch to be up and running. Many people need this. As we know, mental illness is very challenging with those struggling with PTSD. Many of our emergency responders face that daily. So to have a place where they can go to get better is an amazing honor that we have in our local community. So it was a lovely event, and our fire department took up our fire truck, as well as Ashcroft took up theirs as well, and it was well received. And just got to say that truck handles lovely, and we're very proud that we have that new truck in our community, and so is our emergency responders, and they're very grateful for everything we've done for them. So
Yeah, the part that I found special was where the Hawks were singing to us.
that was
Yeah.
Right, that was cute.
was meant to be.
Really neat.
During
Yeah,
part of the
okay.
dedication, there were 3 hawks flying overhead while one of the speakers, the main key speaker,
Yeah.
was speaking. It was pretty
Great event.
emotional.
And do they have our old truck now?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I don't think it's up there yet, but
No, they're in the process of establishing a heated space for it before it goes up there. But they're very grateful for that, and probably grateful that it needs a little bit of TLC with the tank, so they have something to tinker with when they go up, and they need something to keep their mind off of their issues and various other things that go on up there. They have an amazing structure and plans for the future, and
Yeah.
we can only benefit from it.
definitely.
Thank you for that.
What sort of hawks?
I think they were red tail. They were pretty big.
Yeah, they were pretty big.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought
For
they were
a short
almost
time there, I
eagles.
thought they were
Right?
osprey.
No, they weren't.
They were
no, no,
small.
They
were
weren't
hawks.
Yeah, they
Smaller.
were. I thought maybe golden eagle, but they were too small.
No, they were hawks.
Yeah.
And
Hawks.
the way they sang,
Yeah.
they were hawks.
Yeah.
Look at the wings, you can always tell.
Oh, was that my loud voice?
For governmental relations myself, and I'm gonna rely on the 3 counselors and our CAO who attended UBCM to give us a little update if they wished, or we can just receive and file.
It was a valuable enterprise, but I'm not sure that all the council needs to attend on a regular basis.
I learn something new every time I go. Like learning about the new 911 service that's coming out, that was new to me, so it was really good hearing about it. And to hear George Abbott discuss his report that he did with Chief Chapman a couple of years ago, and to hear him, talk about the climate change aspect of it, that was shouldn't have been unexpected, but it was. And I'll just read one line from what he said. He said, from 1900 to 2013, BC's average temperature has increased by 1.4 centigrade, faster than the global average. That was really eye-opening. The remuneration for elected officials, I recommend that we all read over that and also read the council and board remuneration guide if we're looking at rolling that forward or backwards in the next 3 years. Got to speak face to face with Minister Doug Donaldson about forestry and about our local heritage sites. Then we met with Liberal health critic Norm Letnick about the state of our health care in the hospital. And at the provincial policy session, Clean BC and Provincial Adaptation Strategy, one of the things that they mentioned was the different reports that have come out, and the Strategic Climate Risk Assessment report that came out earlier this year and it identified the highest ranked climate change risks in BC: severe wildfire seasons, heat waves, seasonal water shortages, ocean acidification, glacier mass loss, and long-term water shortages. So we have a heads up of what we're going to be looking at the next few years, and what we have to address sooner rather than later. Got to meet Sophia Parkinson, who is the wife of Bob Parkinson, the director with the Honor House Society. She sat with us at the Silga lunch. That was a great meeting to have her there just before the Honor House opening. ALR is coming up for public discussion again, and I've included their website in my report here. They've slated a few meetings in communities, but none of them come to the TNRD, which Director Steve Rice pointed out to them, so they said they might be adding a few new sites. And met with our former CFO, Sheila McCutcheon, at the Liberal Party breakfast. And yeah, that's just skipping over lots of it, but for sure lots happened, and it was, to me, it's always worth going because there's just so much, there's a lot to assimilate, but once you get back to Cache Creek and you start thinking about it, looking at your notes, you go, oh yeah, right, yeah.
And actually, I found
I know
the best value was the pre-clinics that we attended
Those early morning
before
ones.
the first meeting at 7 in the morning. But they were the ones I wanted to pretty much go to all of. But I had to choose one every morning of 5 usually, 4 or 5.
And this was at 7 in the morning.
I thought it was a good conference. My own thinking, though, is that it really is, as you would guess, focused on council members. A lot of what was presented, I'd already come across with emails. It always makes it more, you can retain it more when you're getting a personal presentation at a conference, though. But to be honest, unless there's something that is really necessary for Cache Creek, in the future I probably would not be going to UBCM.
Councillor Peters made a couple of really good contacts regarding infrastructure funding.
One was I had to leave a meeting because my back went into spasm, and the lady beside me said, "Clint Eastwood is dead." And I said, "I don't think so. No, he's not." It's a hoax. Turns out she's with Fortis BC and is responsible for some of the funding for infrastructure and reviews. So I've since made contact with her and shared that with you guys.
Yeah, there's good networking event,
Oh, it
a lot of
definitely is.
information.
I was telling a story, I think, at UBCM, where John Rada, mayor at the time, was at one of the evening networking events, and came across, started chatting with a guy from ICBC, that we wanted some audible walk signals for vision impaired people at our main intersection, but there was a challenge in how the intersection was designed. And so Cache Creek wound up being the first municipality in BC to have 3 different tones for their walk signals for intersections, just because of
A chance meeting.
a chance meeting.
Yeah.
So they're definitely valuable.
Okay,
Move to receive and file.
second.
All in favor? Carried, thank you. Just Russ Black from Belcorp or Waste Tech, one of those companies that operate the landfill or will be operating our landfill, is due to do a presentation at the TNRD level on Thursday, and be interesting to see what he has to say at that particular meeting. So just to give you the heads up that he will be attending our regional board meeting on Thursday,
What time?
1:15. correspondence?
I just had a few people asking some questions in regards to. Where did it go now? Just the unsightly premises complaint for the last council meeting. Understanding that the information has gone out to Fulton and Company for a response, but our unsightly premises policy is, could we not clean up that, or we can clean up something and then bill it to the taxpayer?
Yes, we have that
Correct.
authority right now. But you can't just say,
Well, we can,
there is a process to be followed.
Right.
And you have to give them a fair opportunity to be notified and to have enough time to respond.
right, so,
In addition to that, if there are additional remediation works, such as if it's a contaminated site or something like that, then there's other agencies that need to be contacted as well.
right, okay, so I just wondered why, I guess 'cause this has been going on for 2 years, I just don't wanna see it continue to be delayed. Now it's supposed to,
Which
was there
site-
something we could have done before it went to the lawyer?
Which site are you talking about?
The complaint that was
1205
previously
Sunrise
discussed.
The issue with that particular piece of property is we can't get correspondence. We have a stack of correspondence that doesn't get returned to
Yeah.
sender, which is the Village of Cache Creek.
The reason,
So
yeah,
registered
That's-
now?
yes, the reason that this has been delayed and
Mhm.
delayed is that we cannot contact the property owner. The person that's in there right now is leasing it. That's why I wanna go through a lawyer, is hoping that they may have a better way of tracking down the property owner. Right now, they don't even come in to collect the early discount on their utilities. They wait till it gets added to taxes and then they just pay their tax bill.
The bank pays their tax
The
bill.
bank pays their tax bill.
They don't
yes.
come in and pay their tax bill.
No,
And
we
we
don't
can't
know
go to
who
the
they are,
bank
we
and
don't
say,
see them.
give us this person's address, because they can't disclose that information. So we're in a catch-22, that's why we're going to Fulton Company to do some, whatever they can legally to get the property owner's address so we can deliver registered mail, so we can start the process.
Wouldn't we have the owner's name and addresses?
We send them,
For-
yes, and we
for
send
our-
it, and we send them a registered letter and it comes back.
They don't.
Okay,
They don't accept it.
They've gone underground.
okay, so I'm seeing, I'm just needing to see
Yeah.
where the picture, where we are.
Yeah.
So
that-
it is
It's a
processing
problem.
forward.
I mean,
Yeah,
we have been trying, but it's a problem.
huge, right? Okay, so that's something,
Then something
Well,
else
if
I
it
want to ask the
snows a
lawyer
lot,
is,
We'll have another 6 months and it'll be camouflaged for a while.
something else I'm waiting for the lawyer to respond to is whether or not we can simply advise the tenant that we are coming in on this day to clean up the property. I would think that the tenant has a way of contacting the property owner, they have to pay rent. But I don't know whether we can legally do that. That's why we need
Got to
a
it.
lawyer's advice.
true. The other thing is the letter from Mr. McKay. He's posted that in the post office as well. Have you seen it and read it?
No,
I was just in there a couple days ago, he must have done it since. I was looking for.
I have been in email correspondence, for lack of a better word, with Mr. McKay.
Okay. So I just wondered, because he's threatening legal action
He's already,
and
Yes, and because of that,
as a different
we,
thing altogether.
please be careful here because
Yeah.
that
Oh,
is
okay.
a case
Oh,
before the
okay,
courts.
sorry.
So,
yeah, don't go
But,
there.
where is the letter? I've got the letter here somewhere, but it was, his concern was the, oh, here it is. On October 7th,
I think I better stop you
We-
right there,
yeah.
because that will
Okay.
directly affect the court
Okay,
case.
so that's gotta go.
Anything that involves Mr. McKay, we're not discussing. That's the bottom line
Yeah.
right now.
Okay, so
Uh,
we have
We
this-
have an open court case. There were, within a couple of months of actually going to discovery on that case, so
Okay,
we-
so can I see this go into the in-camera
We
agenda
don't-
for the
we don't
next
even
time,
want
or
it.
no?
I will, if you,
If
if
he
you would
wants
not
to
mind,
send
I
that to
would.
our lawyer, that's fine. If I may interject,
No.
that's not our place to be gathering information to deal with. If he wants to send that to our legal counsel, fine. Otherwise, we don't wanna see it.
Our lawyer had asked for any correspondence that Mr. McKay puts out about this issue, so I would like a copy of that, and I will send it to our
Okay.
lawyer.
Because it was at the, it's in the post office, but he dropped that off with me, and he said he dropped one off with you,
I haven't seen it.
so that's why I thought,
Nope, he has not.
okay, so that's fine. And just the other one was the lady asked about the grant, I didn't, I guess it's this that, where is it here? Applied for a grant from the federal government's Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program. So has she been, she brought the
What's it?
question forward to find out if there was the grant for the road and the culvert, if we've received it. Was she notified of anything?
She's been told that we applied for that grant. She's been told that it will be approved until probably sometime in December.
Okay. Just following up on that one. She stopped in as well. Okay. I guess, so the roofing, the fire hall roof,
Point of order, should these be
Right,
new
is that-
business?
We're dealing with them under, what, staff reports?
no, we aren't.
Or, because this is new,
Oh, okay.
because we're on to
Information
staff
Oh, I
information
thought we were
correspondence
under
and then
new
new business.
business. Okay,
We haven't
I'll
got-
put that one to new business, the next one. Okay.
Anything further?
On correspondence?
Information correspondence, yes.
I'll just note that we ran into George North or Canadian Energy Association rep Janice Keys at the trade show at UBCM. Unfortunately, we didn't get a lot of time to talk to her, but it's nice that she sent a letter saying hi and sending us more information on the George North Electric Vehicle Charging Station Network program. There, there's my pitch for EVs.
You always have to get one in.
Is it for information correspondence, new business?
Question on, so has the fire hall roof contract been awarded?
Upper Corner Roofing has a contract.
Do they have a start date?
Early November is all I can remember. There is a specific date where they wanted to come out and start setting up, but I
Guess
don't
I-
remember what that is. It's early November.
Guess I should have asked if they had an end date.
Did that come up in conversation? No, I don't think it came up in conversation with them, but it did come up in conversation with the guy from Coast Plains who did the assessment. He said a job like this, he anticipated would be about a week, possibly two,
Well,
depending on whether the substrate underneath is still sound. Where the seams have broken through the membrane, the OSB still looked in good shape. But he recommended that we did not delay on getting it done.
Anything else under new business? Questions from the public?
keeping informed.
Good for you.
Questions from the press?